Welcome to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast, a show committed to bringing you insights from thought leaders shaping the real estate industry. In each episode, we'll dive into conversations with industry experts and local insiders, all aimed at helping you thrive in an ever-changing real estate market, continuing the legacy that Bruce Norris created, sharing valuable knowledge, and empowering you on your real estate journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a newcomer, this is your go-to source for insider tips, market trends, and success strategies.
All right, welcome everybody to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, a friend of the show and a friend of the Norris Group for a very long time, a huge supporter of I Survived Real Estate for many, many years. And you know, he's an interesting story with his background in the military and wanting to provide financial freedom to veterans and first responders and things like that. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but let's welcome Buddy Rushing of White Feather AI. It's not White Feather Investment anymore. It's White Feather AI.
Right. That's right. I talked to somebody this morning about this and he was like, how's things going? And I'm like, well, you know, about 18 months ago, I made a fundamental shift that White Feather was now going to become an AI company that focuses on real estate as opposed to a real estate company, right? That's a really fundamental shift. And I think that it's warranted because of the awesome power of AI. And so, yeah, so here I am on behalf of White Feather AI.
So that's just your latest pivot. Now, you spent, you graduated from the Naval Academy. You spent, I believe, 16 years in the military as a naval officer for the Marine Corps. So when you were coming out of service, I guess it's not because I know a little bit more about your background. It wasn't that big a stretch for you to pivot from military to real estate, but talk about how that came about. How'd you go from, military, aren't you an astrophysicist by trade?
Aerospace
engineer, right?
Yeah.
So aerospace engineer to real estate investing. Can you talk about how that?
Yeah, the Naval Academy for me was, just a fire hose blast in the face. I got accepted barely, squeaked in through the door. And then, I studied aerospace engineering because it started with an A and the list of potential majors was alphabetical. So it started with an A and it was the first one that sounded cool. And I really, really wish that I put more thought into it than that, but that's the truth. And it's the most hard. It's the hardest major ever. And I barely made it through, but hey, not a single person since I've graduated has asked me what my GPA is. Not a single person. No one cares. So I made it through. But then, I went into the Marine Corps and, I got to deploy to Afghanistan 3 times because I graduated in 2004. And then, of course, that's when the war was raging. And, I'd never even thought about real estate. Like I grew up on welfare in East Tennessee, and we never, my parents knew nothing about real estate, and so what changed my life, and it's so wild how things work, because over 20 years ago, I'm in Afghanistan. Man, time flies, dang it, holy cow. That was 2006. Wow, 20 years ago. Anyway, I was in Afghanistan, and I was on an armored convoy, and I found Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just sitting there, this little paperback torn up book. And I read it and it completely changed what I thought was possible in my life. And, after that, of course, 20 years goes by and we go build all this other stuff and build financial freedom and all of that. And, that we don't have time for that whole story, but if you're interested, you can find it online. You just Google Buddy Rushing, like White Feather, and there's other podcasts and stuff that's been done. But here's the cool part of the end of the story is, I think, a lot of people know about Robert Kiyosaki writing that book because it's a story about his life, and he's the one that kind of he's the front man. But what a lot of people don't know is that the person who wrote a lot of it, the vast majority of it, is a woman named Sharon Lechter, right? So if you look on Rich Dad Poor Dad, it actually says written by Sharon Lechter and Robert Kiyosaki. So Sharon, I actually met her a couple of years ago at an event, and I did not know that military runs throughout her whole family. She her dad, her son, so on and so on. And so she's got a really big heart for the military, and she loved the mission of White Feather, which is to help veterans, first responders, and their families build financial freedom. And so 2 weeks ago, we're out in Arizona at the Great Wolf Lodge, and Sharon's husband, Mike, sends me a text, and he's like, hey, you should come out to the ranch. We've got a ranch just north of Scottsdale. It's called Cherry Creek Ranch. And so I was like, okay. So we went out there and stayed for like 2 days, and they drove out and they came and had dinner with us, and we're just hanging out. I'm literally sitting around a fire pit talking for hours with Sharon Lecter. Wow. That happened like a couple of weeks ago, right? So life's pretty crazy, man.
Wow, that's wild. So let's get into the whole white feather thing. I didn't know that there's actually a story about why it's called white feather. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's so funny how things happen, because now just to frame this for you, now white feather is an ecosystem of people. There's 500 core veterans at the center of it, but then there's about 4,000 people in the community writ large, and collectively we've purchased over $2 billion of real estate in the past 7 years as a group, and so on and so on. Created 75 millionaires, and it's now this movement that I'm privileged to be a part of. But when it first started, it was literally nothing. There was literally just there was nothing. It was my wife and I were driving. I had kind of convinced her that, hey, this rich dad, poor dad thing, it really could work for us. And I want to build it. Right. And so we're driving down the road to a place called 29 Palms, which is in California. It's by Palm Springs. It's a military town. And it's the dead end of nowhere, deserts, nothing.
It's like Beverly Hills East.
Yeah, exactly. So you should go there. Everyone should go there and just enjoy yourself. If you don't know why that's funny, you should just Google 29 Palms, California. Just take a look at the town. I call it Hell's Annex. But anyway, so we're driving down the road, and we're like, I don't know why, but we've always believed in ourselves. Even when she was driving dirty batteries around for Napa Auto Parts, making $300 a month, and I was a first lieutenant in the Marine Corps. But for whatever reason, we always believed in ourselves. We always believed that we'd be able to do it. It's naive or whatever. But we're driving, we're like, this is going to be big. We're going to do something great. What do you want to call this business? And we drive by, and we drive by the police station, and the road that leads to the police station is called White Feather Road. And Kimberly's like, look at that. White feather. That's amazing. It's I can imagine in my mind this beautiful flowing imagery of a white feather and peace and love and happiness. And if you know my wife, that's her. She's peace and love and happiness and all that stuff. I was like, you know what else? White feather was the nickname of Carlos Hathcock, the deadliest Marine sniper in history. In Vietnam, he used to stalk the Viet Cong, and he was so good and so deadly that he would taunt them by putting a white feather in his camouflage cover. Clearly, that's not camouflage. He was so good that he would be like, I can have a white feather and you still can't find me before I kill you. And he was legendary for that. So what's funny is that obviously that's completely two different things that really, that really encompasses Kimberly, who's all beauty and love and peace and happiness, and me, who's a Marine, right? And what's really funny is she was obviously oh my gosh, I can't believe you would have, but she agreed to it. So that's where the name White Feather came from. To this day, more people have said, hey, the White Feather, that's Carlos Hathcock, right? That have ever referenced peace and love and happiness. So I win.
So Kimberly's version of that is the feather that comes out of the book in Forrest Gump that floats up.
Floating little cutie feather.
Yeah. That's too funny. Now, all right, so we'll get into abundance mentality a little bit later too, but that's kind of what White Feather was. It's more about community over competition. Can you talk about that?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, for sure. A lot of people have remarked over the years that the velocity of trust inside White Feather is the fastest they've ever seen. And what that means is you get people that come into the community and they meet each other, and then within moments, they're joining forces and doing deals and loaning each other money and giving each other hours of consultations for free. And right, it's a perfect example that I can tell you is one where we had a gathering. It's 30 people here in Carlsbad. It's no big deal. And the vast majority of people in White Feather have not met each other in person. And we're all over the country. We're all over the world. And so most of the time it's just Zoom and calls. And so we had these people come in, and there were 4 people that came in that had never met each other before. One guy was a West Point grad, one a Naval Academy, one Air Force, and one Coast Guard. I can't make this up. This isn't a joke, right? It's like they had one.
They all walked into a bar.
Walked into a bar, and there were these. And so they came in, and over drinks, they started talking. They were like, "Man, you guys are awesome. We should definitely do stuff together." And they're like, "Yeah, we will." And then they parted ways. Less than 2 weeks later, the Air Force guide, a guy named Dave Ortiz, finds this deal on LoopNet down in Coronado, and it's this 7-unit sort of multifamily apartment that it's like 3 different houses, like a 3-bed, a 2, and a 2. And he finds it on LoopNet, and it's like $2.5 million or something like that. So he messages the other people, and long story short, less than 2 months later, they had raised over $1 million from White Feather and bought the property. And then they renovated it and turned it into a short-term rental, and they still own it. And their best month, they average over $100,000 a month in income. So it is crushed. And the whole United States has like faced a real big compression in short-term rentals.
Oh, yeah.
They have been completely resistant to that.
Wow.
And so they called it 4 Branches Equity, right? And that's the LLC that owns it. And it's been a grand slam home run within 2 weeks of meeting each other. That's the velocity of trust in White Feather. And about like collaboration versus competition. Competition doesn't even make any sense inside White Feather, because we're all on a path to building financial freedom so we can actually live the dream of freedom that we fight to protect as veterans and service members, right? And first responders. Because the whole point is this. There are millions of people in America that serve and sacrifice, and quite literally oftentimes sacrifice more than just their time and their money and their emotion, whatever, but sometimes even physically, right? And they do it to some degree because they want to preserve this American dream. And the American dream is freedom. It's not a white picket fence. It's the freedom to have that white picket fence. It's the freedom to do whatever you want, right? But the irony is that the vast majority of those service that are in that service, they don't get to live that dream themselves because they can't afford to. So the mission of White Feather is to help those members and their families build financial freedom so they can actually live that dream. So collaboration is the only thing that makes sense. Competition doesn't make sense at all in that mission.
That's what I love about the financial freedom event that you have, the summit, because it wasn't just like, all right, hey, here's some strategies for real estate. It was actually like resources and tools, to help with, disability, payments. How do you, a lot of them don't even use their VA benefits to buy houses, like VA housing. Right. So
crazy.
It was about those types of tools, and that's what I really love about that community, and hearing what you're doing with that, because it is not truly just like, hey, financial freedom, but it's well rounded and very robust. The support and the structure that it has, so it's really cool.
Yeah, and honestly, for anybody that's listening to this, that's thinking to themselves, "Oh, well, I didn't serve," understand that, like, for us, the mission is about helping people who support this dream of freedom. So, like, that includes spouses, it includes brothers and sisters and kids and parents and everybody who would consider themselves a patriot, that would consider themselves like, it's weird that term has gotten a little bit like clouded recently.
Yeah.
To those of us that love the freedom that America represents, like, it's always crystal clear, right? It's all you have to do is like look at the opportunity for a kid, like a half Mexican kid who grew up on food stamps in an abusive household, who now is a multimillionaire that's helping people build their dreams. That's my story. And that story is only available because of the freedoms we have in America. So that's what I'm passionate about, is the freedom. It's not about politics or this or that or left or right. I don't care about all that stuff. That's just me personally. If you care, that's great. But you have the freedom to care. I have the freedom to not care. That's what the whole point is. And without financial freedom, all the other stuff is just talk. That's
and sports is a little bit like military service in that way, where it just like, you might come from Tennessee, and then you're in boot camp with a kid from South Central Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And that guy might be your best friend for the rest of your life.
That's right.
And that's what's really cool, because that also happens in baseball and in football. people from different neighborhoods come to the same high school, and all of a sudden, where you wouldn't have somebody over, they end up developing these bonds, and they carry through your lifetime. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Now imagine creating a community of people that have that shared background and a heart for service, right?
Yeah, that's really awesome. All right, so I know we've dove deep into a lot of the stuff the White Feather does in the past in our podcast, but you talk about your first pivot. Now you made a huge pivot, and we alluded to it a little bit, when we first started, and it's actually one of the reasons why we're doing. If anybody doesn't know, we are doing a AI meets real estate event, and we're gonna do a little bit of a preview later on, but because this is going to be two parts, I want to mention it early in the show too. It's called Tsunami, the Real Estate AI Summit, how investors win when artificial intelligence changes everything. So let's talk about that, where you were doing all this and just real estate and helping support. What sparked the pivot to AI for you?
It was a personal interest that I had in exponential technology. Really, it comes down to, well, it's lucky. I got lucky because I personally am interested in all the things that are changing. Everything from autonomous like humanoid robots to autonomous driving cars to flying cars to, all this stuff is fascinating to me. I just think like spaceships, SpaceX and like, mass drivers off the moon and data centers. It's all really cool stuff to me. And I think it's the most amazing time in human history to be alive. And if you truly do pay attention, that becomes really obvious. And think about what happens when that happens. If you really do believe that it's the most amazing time in human history to be alive, then you're excited for every day. And I have crap in my life just like everybody else. I have deals that go bad. I have frustrations with contractors. I have all of this stuff that everybody else deals with, but it's easier to deal with that stuff if you truly believe that it's the most exciting time in human history to be alive. And all you have to do is look at the data, and it becomes really, really apparent that we're in the safest, we're in the most prosperous, we're in the most opportunistic time ever in human history. So for me, it started with just being personally interested. I read the book Abundance. I started following Peter Diamandis and the whole abundance community and started learning about all these technical things. Well, the conversations 5 years ago were all about flying cars, robotics, computation, stuff like that. Then it started shifting, right? And then you started hearing a little bit about AI. And then ChatGPT launched 3 years ago, I think it was. And then all of a sudden people were like, whoa, what's this chatbot? This is really interesting. Let's talk about this more. And then about 2 years ago, my community and the community of the abundance community, I started feeling a shift from we're talking about AI is one thing to half the time we're talking about AI. And I saw in my mind, I was like, you know what? I heard somebody utter the phrase AI or die. And it stuck with me. That's obviously dramatic, but it stuck with me. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, with all of the parts that AI has the ability to touch and will in the coming years, those that sit idly by will be completely encircled and completely outflanked by those that are embracing this technology. It's an unfair advantage. AI is an unfair advantage. And I heard somebody say this, and it stuck with me as well. They said, AI is not going to take your job by and large. It may take some people's jobs. But for those of you that are saying, oh, well, AI will never take my job, that's not the threat. The threat is your competition who's using AI better than you, who's going to take your clients and your business and that job opportunity. That job may still exist, but you won't get it because the person who's using AI better than you is more valuable than you. And that's a hard, stark reality. But I looked internally at White Feather and I said, if we don't disrupt ourselves, other people are going to disrupt us because what we're providing is not magic, right? I'm helping people buy deals. I'm helping them get their benefits. I'm helping them do loans. I'm helping educate them on how to build financial freedom. All of this stuff is not magic. It's something I learned from somebody that I'm teaching to other people. But what if somebody else using AI can do it way better and faster and cheaper than me? Loyalty only lasts so long until they optimize for what their mission is, which is to build financial freedom. And so I said, okay, it's AI or die. 2 years ago, I said this. I said, I don't know what this looks like, I told my business partner, Greg, I said, we're AI or die. I don't know what it looks like, but we will become an AI native company. And then about a year ago, I had learned a lot. And now, by the way, a year ago, all these podcasts I listen to, everything, it's all AI. We talk about robotics a little bit. We talk about SpaceX a little bit. We talk about flying cars a little bit, but it's AI everything. And so that was pretty.
Well, that's the Dennis Hassabis method, is like build the artificial super intelligence and it's going to solve everything else.
It solves everything else. It's become so for us. I'm like, okay, and I'm about 9 or 10 months ago, I said, okay, we need to go all in even more, right? So fundamentally, White Feather has to become an AI company where AI is the electricity. It's literally the utility. It's the electricity that powers all the other verticals of AI. White Feather Investments, doing deals, powered by AI. White Feather Education, powered by AI. And so all the things that we're doing now, everything is powered by AI, and everything is running so much more powerfully than it ever used to be. Like we have a campaign, real estate investing campaign called the Hyperion campaign.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit, but not too much, because we're going to do a deep dive.
Oh, right. I forgot. I'm terrible at promoting things. So anybody that listens to this, come to the event. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But I'm terrible at promoting, so go ahead and share what you guys are doing right now. Yeah. So I said, okay, now that I'm AI native, I'm just this AI guy that is looking for different opportunities to use AI. What about real estate? How does AI meet real estate? And I was like, well, obviously the obvious ones. You can upload your property management statement, you can upload inspection reports and blah, 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 all this simple stuff. By the way, everybody who says, let me give you 2 stats real quick. There's 40% of Americans that state that they don't use AI in any capacity. That's one, that's insane. 2, the 60% that do state they use it, the vast majority of those mean they're using ChatGPT as a Google Plus. That's what they mean. ChatGPT is now their search engine. Yeah. That is like, dipping the tiniest part of your toe into the ocean and saying that you're an Olympic swimmer, right? It's like, so when I say, using AI, I mean, using it to its fullest. So what we just said, all right, where's real estate meet AI? You can use it for due diligence for sure. You can use it for analysis. Okay, all that's great. But what about even more fundamentally structured than that? Data centers, right? Data centers. They're building data centers because, for those of you that don't know, the President of the United States and all of his administration has stated publicly that it is a national security imperative to beat China in the AI race. In order to beat China in the AI race, you have to have AI. That AI is run on compute, which is produced by chips. Okay, so stick with me. This is a little bit nerdy, but it's really important to understand this stack. AI sits on the very top of chips. Chips are housed in data centers. Data centers are run by electricity. I'm oversimplifying, but you get that stack. Imagine that in your mind.
Mean you're not going to get into transformers and GPUs?
At the event, I'll tell you anything you want to know about TSMC and the whole geopolitical. Anyway, so in order to have the computing capacity and the ability to beat China to AI, we need lots of data centers. Those data centers are massive, massive projects, billion-dollar projects, tens of billions of dollars. And I was like, wow, what happens when you pour billions of dollars of infrastructure into an area? What happens to the real estate? It seems pretty obvious, right? Anytime you've seen an infrastructure project go into a town, the real estate values go up, the rent goes up because the taxes go up, right? And so, but we've never seen anything like $30 billion worth of construction. So let's take a look at that. Long story short, I did about 3 months of AI-powered due diligence, and come to find out there was a $37 billion data center by Meta called Hyperion that was being put into Northeast Louisiana. And when you look at where it's going in Northeast Louisiana, it's in the middle of farmland. And that makes sense. The land is cheap to lease. They have a high water table for cooling operations, and they have an abundance of natural gas for power. So, and they have a friendly local government. So then I said, okay, well, let's look at the town around it. And the town is, median home price, $170,000. If you know that the median home price in America is $430,000, you know that there is plenty of room.
There's a little bit of upside.
Little bit of upside. So what happens when they bring in 10,000 workers for 3 years and they got to live somewhere and they get high paying jobs? They flood the local economy with money. So this is not rocket science, right? And so we went in there and we said, you know what, let's just buy a bunch of properties. So we're 24 properties in right now. And our average purchase price is around $200,000. We do some renovations. Our average ARV is around $285,000. We're renting them they're all 1% properties, every single one of them. So our average rent is somewhere between $2,600 and $3,000 a month. And so these are multi-double digit cash on cash return deals with normal bank financing. Right now I'm in this market, and so I bought a house on Carter Street, right? 2004 Carter Street, if you want to look at it. It's owned by Hyperion Carter LLC, which is an LLC that I own, right? So 2004 Carter Street in West Monroe, I bought it for $170,000. I put about $60,000 into it, and then I refinanced the money back out of it, and then I rented it. I rented it for $2,600 a month, right? And the guy wanted to move in before we could clean the house. He paid upfront the deposit and the first month's rent, and wanted to move in before we could even clean the house after renovation. And in a year from now, that property is projected to be able to be rented for $3,000 a month. So my cash and cash return is multiple double digits. And I didn't do anything special. I just bought it with bank financing, renovated it, refinanced it. Simple stuff. And so our Hyperion campaign, and by the way, everybody that's a part of this Hyperion campaign, they're all students. They're all students that I trained to use AI and then go do this. And we're punching way above our weight class because AI enables us to do that.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not like AI is building a data center. You have multiple frontier labs that are doing it all over the country, all over the world, actually, because it started outside of the United States. And then, there's that little bit of the NIMBYism because of there's bad press, and the new ones are going to have to address that before they come in, right? So the drain on the water supply, the drain on power, the spiking of the utilities. Well, they know that now. So as these new ones come on board, they're going to have to be able to have they're even talking about, well, let's not be a strain on the local utilities. Let's find a way to give back and make the utilities actually cheaper.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. So the average person without AI that's just looking at this is going to say, oh, you know what, Northern Virginia, there was a lot of backlash. And now you look at the protests in New York and California, data centers are not a thing. They're not going to happen because they're doing moratoriums. If that's what you want to believe, that's fine by me. But if you look deeper, you understand that Meta not only is Northeast Louisiana, the chair, the Speaker of the House, right, of Representatives is a guy named Mike Johnson, who is a Louisiana native. The Congresswoman, Julia Lutlow, who is running for Senate right now, is actually from Monroe, right? You've got Congressman Neil Reiser, who's from Louisiana. You've got all of these people in houses of power in DC that are pro data center and from Louisiana. Then you go all the way down to the local mayor, a guy named Friday Ellis in Monroe, and then Washita Pearson. You look at all of these different people that are in charge of either approving or not approving this stuff. 100% of them are on board with Meta. And also, Meta came in and they said, you know what, there's a very high water table in this area of Richland Parish. So we're going to dig these massive reservoirs. And if you look at Google Earth, they have these massive reservoirs that are already full of water. That is what they use. So they don't tap into the local town's water supply. The town's too small. So they're not draining the town's water supply. And then they're building two massive power plants northwest. They've already contracted energy to build these massive power plants that run off natural gas. And their plan is to produce so much energy that they actually subsidize the local people's electric bill. So when you understand that, and you understand that also that this Hyperion data center is the flagship operation for Meta's AI operations, then you're like, there's a less than 5% chance of it not happening. And we've run through all of those calculations already.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk that the AI's arms race has a lot of Oppenheimer parallels.
Mm-hmm.
And
it does.
And what's crazy about this is that it's public funding. It's like it's companies, because
that's right.
If this was a military and a government kind of deal, then we wouldn't be reaping the benefits of this as fast, because they would keep it under wraps a lot. But because there's such competition between OpenAI, between Anthropic, between Gemini, that it's making it accessible for us and at a pretty good price.
Oh, that's a really important point. So this is something, if you've gotten lost so far, or you're just like, whoa, this is over my head, just remember this. The tools that we have available right now, because of what you just said, they're all trying to get market share. Everybody's trying to be OpenAI, XAI, Anthropic, and so on. They're all out there trying to get users. And how do you get users? You offer things for free or low cost that are where the value proposition is so high that you're dumb not to use it. That's not a business model that can sustain, though. So what happens is they do just like Amazon did. Amazon for 10 years promoted its loss leaders and lost money every single year until they became so ubiquitous that they were a utility, and then they started charging for Amazon Prime. You remember when Amazon Prime was free?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the Amazon Prime was a loss leader. They lost money with Amazon Prime. You remember when Amazon Prime Video first came out? Every single video on there was free. Now you have to pay for almost everything.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because they have to make money. So all of these tools that are available right now that we're using to create massive amounts of wealth, they're not going to last. They're going to become enterprise level, and they're going to cost 5 to 10 times as much. So anyway, right now is the heyday for all of us.
So
and the window's closed.
The one thing that especially Craig, our CEO, he's not a huge AI expert, so he's letting you and I kind of run with the event and really develop the programming for it. But the one thing that he always talks about is, all right, let's bring it back to real estate. Let's bring it back to real estate. And that's one of the things that no matter how technical we get on that day, it's all going to lead back to how our real estate investors going to use. So what's the biggest threat to real estate investors right now where it comes to AI?
Let me frame it this way, and I'll hit 4 different types of people as well. I was talking to a mortgage broker friend of mine today, and I was asking about how he incorporates AI. And he goes, we try to do it this way and this way, and we're doing it a little bit. I'm open to it, but I got to be honest, I don't want it to replace like the actual personal connection that I have with people. And I told him something, and I'll tell this to you guys, maybe the most important thing that you hear. AI will not get rid of mortgage brokers. It will not get rid of real estate agents or property managers or investors. What it'll do is it'll completely eviscerate the 50% or more bottom feeders that are amateurs. I don't mean that to sound so offensive, but you have all kinds of real estate agents. You have really good ones, and you have lots that are not. Those lots that are not are going to get annihilated. The ones that are really good are going to use AI to do all of the data entry, all of the analytics, all of the repetitive electronic tasks, and so on. They're going to lower their overhead, and they're going to free themselves up to do what they do best, which is build trust in a personal way with their clients. And so they can cater to their clients in a much better way, and they can do it cheaper because their overhead is lower because they've automated a lot of this stuff. Like I use OpenClaw. I've already saved like over $30,000 a year just in things I was paying for that my OpenClaw Maverick does for free. And that's just one tiny little example. I've got a guy who, we installed OpenClaw for him, and we're training him how to use it and everything. And he, by the way, public service announcement, don't go download OpenClaw on your personal computer.
Yes, that's one of the things we'll talk about at June is
powerful
risk and safety.
Yes. Very powerful, very potentially dangerous. If channeled correctly, it's unbelievably powerful. If done incorrectly, you can really hurt yourself. So please don't go do that without supervision. But this is a guy who runs a bunch of medical clinics, and they bill. What happens is he has all this work that's done, and then he bills insurance companies, and he bills about $70 million a year. And about 15% of that is lost and denied because paperwork problems. The paperwork is submitted incorrectly and so on. That's wiffle ball for OpenClaw. Like, it's wiffle ball to train it properly, to fill out documentation and do digital data input. And so even if he recoups 10% of what he lost, that's about $1.2 million a year that he'll make. right? And that's one small example. So what I tell people is, if you're a real estate agent and you're good and you can harness the awesome power of AI, you will dominate your competition. If you're not, no one's gonna come list their house with you for 5 or 6% when you're not powered by AI. And the guy next to you or the girl next to you that's fully powered by AI is charging me 3% because they have lower overhead. I'm gonna go with them. So like, if you're a real estate agent and you're not using AI, you're gonna see very, very rapidly that even your most loyal clients will go work with the other guy because they're powered by AI. And it's the same thing with property managers. Property managers can charge 6% if their overhead is nominal, right? And they have systems where their tenants stay longer and their marketing is better and their customer service is better. All of that stuff is going to make them be able to manage many, many more properties than a non-AI native property manager. And the same thing with investors and everything. So the answer to your question is parallel. It's two-sided. There is the risk if you don't. And the risk is very, very simple. Like, you will gradually just lose your clients and lose your investment opportunities. And you know, that's what's going to happen. It's already happening. The opportunity, though, because you're hearing this information about 6 months ahead of where most people are going to take it on board, you have the opportunity to harness it. And we'll give many examples at the event, specific physical examples of how people are doing it.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about, you and I, is doing maybe a couple of webinars that will actually highlight some of the things that you just talked about, like how, you know, an investor with or without AI, a real estate agent with or without AI. One of the interesting things that I realized when I was developing the webinar for the realtors is there is, you know, RE/MAX, you know, the big companies, they're using AI, they're making it available, but even realtors that work for these companies that give you the tools, only about 20% are using it, you know? And so as you go down to the middle and the small brokers, it's even less and less. And so one of the things that I love about our event is that we're going to like, if you're a brand new, never touched AI, we're going to start and build you up from, you know, from just talking about how to just prompt engineer, just bring AI to the table, whether it's ChatGPT, whatever your favorite, you know, AI, you know, start using it all the way up to, you know, these really, you know, like you just talked about open cloud. We're going to do some live demonstrations. And so the webinar is going to say, hey, this is the opportunity that's presented. And then at the event, we're actually going to do some live demonstrations on how to use a lot of the tools that we're going to talk about. So
even more than live demonstrations, here's what I'll say. If you come to the event, come prepared to get a huge amount of information that you don't need to take notes. We're going to have, there's many, many platforms that we can use, Plod, Otter, what have you. We will be recording all of it. And then you will, within an hour of the end of the event, receive, for those of you that want it, receive a document that is a transcript of the entire day that you can upload to your specially trained AI that can give you all of the takeaways as it relates to your business. And so one of the things that we're going to do at the event is we will have a segment. I haven't told you about this yet, Joey, but I want to do this. I'm going to have a segment where we walk you through. Everyone should come with a laptop, right? So, or a phone, but preferably a laptop. We're going to walk you through how to build your own Maverick. My AI is named Maverick, right? And I especially trained him to do everything from how to engage with me to create, you know, dopamine releases as I talk to him, how to create flow states in me, but also how to spike creativity and then execute things I need him to execute. How I built Maverick, I've learned over a course of a year how to do this. I can take you, though, in less than 30 minutes, and I can help you build your own version of Maverick with whatever you want. Gemini, ChatGPT, I don't care, right? So you will leave, if you come to the event, you will leave with your own specially trained AI assistant, and then you'll leave with a synopsis of the entire, or with a transcript of the entire day's events that you can then feed into your AI assistant and give you not just the takeaways, but a plan of action for how to incorporate what you've learned into your 90-day action plan. Tell me an event that you can go to where you see that. I've never seen one.
I was so excited. I'm so excited that, Craig has authorized me to do a something that we haven't done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce today that we're actually going to do a super early bird, where not only are they going to get $100 off, they're going to get $200 off. So it's only going to last for 2 weeks.
How'd you get Craig to do that?
Yes.
That's funny.
For 2 weeks. He's like, this is brought to you by DBL Capital. It's like,
exactly.
So
just a little commercial in there.
Yes. So we're going to do that. So starting this Friday, so when we air this event, this podcast, the first half, we're going to send out the coupon code to give you $200 off our price tag. So we want everybody to show up, because I think once we get people in the room, they're going to be like blown away, and they're like, give us more. That's going to do it for part 1 of our interview with White Feather AI CEO and founder, Buddy Rushing. Please stay tuned. We'll see you then.
For more information on hard money loans, trust deed investing, and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For more information on passive investing through the DBL Capital Real Estate Investment Fund, please visit dblcapital.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under the California DRE license 01219911, Florida Mortgage Lender license 1577, and NMLS license 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the hard money tab.